Welcome to Beyond Discovering. This is the podcast where we go behind the scenes of mineral exploration. My name is Thomas Fränkner, and as always is Matthias Fors here also. Welcome, Matthias.
Thank you very much.
How are you today?
All good.
Well, nice, because today we are going to take us from the first thinking of it might be something here in the ground to actually deciding on how to continue.
Yeah, so from the initial stage of exploration, when you have done maybe soil geochemical sampling or geophysical sampling, we are moving ahead quite far in the process where we have diamond drilling going on, and we are now in this pod, in this episode, we are now continuing the discussion what happens after the first initial drilling and how the project develops.
Yes, and in this short English version of this episode, we will talk about everything from the beginning, about data quality, continuity, scientific discipline and patience, and making difficult decisions. But my first question, Matthias, is, so how do we decide whether an early indication is worth following up?
Well, I would say regardless if we are in the early stage of the geochemical sampling or in the drilling, I think the geologists need to answer the questions: is the anomaly or is it geologically reasonable? Second is the signal reproducible? So do we see the continuation of this anomaly? Does it appear in more than one sample? And third is then if the project from a operational or feasible aspect is possible to conduct exploration here. So this is then access, logistics, landowners, and permitting process. And if these all three align, then it's worth continuing.
At what point does an indication become mineralization?
Well, if you have one type of sample from one area, that's not enough information, but you need information from and hopefully from several different exploration methods. So it could be a geochemical sample with having several samples having a higher content of the metal you're looking for, or some geological other structures or features in drill core, for example, that indicates that there's a continuity of this, or you have maybe a geophysical anomaly that also indicates that there's not one single sample that is indicating this, but you need multiple. You need to see a pattern, basically.
Yeah. So why is drilling so central in this process?
Drilling is the one method and basically only method.
The one and only.
The one and only when it comes to the exploration stage, where you actually get verification from the bedrock. And so it tells you the truth. The drill core doesn't lie. It confirms geology, the mineralization, and the grade at that depth from where the sample is. And geophysical, geochemical anomalies and so on, they don't indicate that if the sample is not then taken from the bedrock or from the drill core.
So once you've identified a mineralization, at what is required to call it a resource?
Well, it depends a bit on the geological environment we are in, and also what kind of commodity we are exploring for. But basically, you need enough drill holes at a sufficient density. So the spacing between the holes, which then depends on the geology. Sometimes it's 100 meters, and sometimes you need to drill as tight as 20 meters. And the goal is then to demonstrate the continuity of the mineralization between the holes. So with that, you can build then a 3D block model and estimate the grade and the tonnage in the project.
But still, you don't like to drill too much because it's so expensive.
It is, and sometimes you also end up in the situation that you have a geological vision, an idea of the continuation of this, where this mineralization goes. But since you don't only have geophysical or other information, you need to drill to prove the theory. And sometimes the theory is wrong, and that means that the drill hole is empty. And then you need to see what have you done wrong, what has changed, how has the nature and the bedrock behaved back in the days.
And sometimes you need to drill to prove the theory is wrong.
Exactly. That can also be that you want to make sure that you don't have mineralization in an area.
You have a name for that?
Drill to kill.
Yeah.
or drill to kill. Yeah. So drill to kill, or what? Also the truth machine, as people say.
So negative results are almost as important as good results.
Well, yeah. In one way, you can see it in that way, that sometimes you also need to confirm that there is not mineralization. For example, if you're building, you want to build some facilities, you maybe need to build on top of that area. You want to find out make sure that there is no mineralization below.
And that brings us to resource categories.
Yeah, so typically we move from having a mineralization to an anomaly to going to a block model. You when you drill further, you get an inferred resource where uncertainty is still high, but so you don't have an indicated resource. So for that you will need then tighter drilling, and finally then to a measured resource when drilling density is even higher and the geological understanding is really high. So at the measured level, grade variations are understood and explained, but you need to then drill further to know even more.
But there's always a certain amount of guessing and uncertainty. But how do you ensure that the data are reliable and correct?
Well, within exploration, there is industrial standards that we are following and using, and these are then, have duplicate samples. So you take from the same core, you split it in two, and in that way you get two different analyses, and then you can compare these. You also have certified reference materials that you can insert, or blanks, and these are then needs to be fully traceable in both in the fieldwork but also in the database. So that's one way.
In the beginning, I said that it's necessary with patience in this matter when finding mineralization. So how much patience do I need?
You will need a lot of patience. And of course, it's not only because of there's so many different aspects. It's the funding of the company, but it's also then the field conditions. Are you on a wetland, so you can only drill in the winter time? Are you in the type of terrain that you can drill, almost all months in the year? The financing, as mentioned, the permitting process, because you need the permits for the drilling that you will do, the stakeholder dialogue, and so on. So it is a long marathon.
But how many years does it take, really?
Oh, plus 10.
Plus 10 years?
Yeah.
That's a very long time.
It is. There are examples where it has gone faster, but I would say the normal is 5-10 years for sure.
But still, we need to drill in order to make some confidence in what we are talking about.
Very much so, yeah. We need to drill to reduce the uncertainties and increase the certainties in the project.
Coming to the end of this episode, before here you mentioned that exploration is in fact emotional. Can you explain about that?
Well, very, very much so, I would say. I mean, you have a vision and you're driven by the curiosity and the hope, but also need to face the frustration and setbacks if the vision you have is wrong. But you can also have surprises when you stumble over something that you didn't prepare for, which could be an interesting anomaly to follow up on. So,
how would you like to summarize this episode? What would you like the listener to remember?
Well, the mineral exploration in the early stage starts from an early stage, a large area, and quite quickly the company needs to move in to drilling, because the bedrock with diamond drilling is the one and only way for us to get confirmation if the mineralization is in the bedrock or not. And if there is mineralization in there, there's so many different ways or so many different stages that the exploration company needs still to go through to pass before they can reach a proven ore reserve and so on. There's so many stages.
So in order to be successful, I say the same thing I started with. It requires a lot of discipline, tough decisions, and a lot of data.
It is. Data is king.
Okay, Matthias, thank you for this discussion about from indication to classified mineral resource.
Thank you.
And you who listen, please make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. Then you get to note when it comes a new episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.